What's really striking is this race for speed. We're seeing this huge surge in demand, especially for like getting things delivered within an hour.
Right.
It really makes you wonder how traditional logistics, with warehouses often way out there in cheaper spots, can possibly keep up.
It absolutely does. It highlights this fundamental tension we're seeing play out more and more, this expectation, this demand for near instant delivery. It's forcing businesses to completely rethink their whole setup.
Exactly. And that's really what we want to dive deep into today. We've gone through quite a few articles, some reports, trying to get a handle on this push and pull between needing lightning fast logistics and, well, the reality of where the warehouses actually are.
Hmm.
Our mission here really is to pull out some solid, actionable insights for you, our listeners. The kind of stuff that helps you not just understand the problem, but maybe figure out what to do about it, to stay competitive.
Yeah, we're trying to look beyond just like stating the obvious problem. We want to connect some dots and explore some of the smarter strategies that seem to be emerging.
Okay, great. So let's get right into it then. This term logistics real estate, it keeps coming up.
Right.
For anyone listening who maybe isn't deep in the supply chain world, what exactly are we talking about?
Right. So think of it as the physical backbone of how goods move around today. It's the warehouses, the distribution centers, those big fulfillment centers you
Yeah.
see. Basically, any property that's designed and used for storing products, sorting them, shipping them out.
Gotcha.
It's the crucial infrastructure that makes e-commerce actually work, that allows supply chains to be efficient.
Right, okay.
Yep.
This sort of behind-the-scenes engine getting stuff to us.
Yeah.
And it feels like this engine is being asked to run faster and faster, especially with this whole one-hour delivery thing becoming more common.
Mm-hmm.
But the location of the engine, so to speak, isn't always set up for that kind of speed.
That's the absolute core of the problem. Customer demand for quick delivery is just accelerating, right? And it puts huge pressure on logistics networks that were often designed with different priorities in mind.
Like what?
Well, maybe being close to major highways for long-haul trucking or finding the cheapest possible land, which usually meant being way outside the city centers. Those choices made sense then, but now they create a real bottleneck when you're trying to hit that super fast delivery target.
And that distance, I mean, even what might seem like a pretty short distance on a map, that can be a massive hurdle when your promise is delivery in 60 minutes.
Precisely, yeah. The further you are from your final customer, the more complex and, honestly, the more expensive that last part of the trip becomes. That's what we call the last mile.
We hear that term a lot.
Yeah, and we'll unpack it a bit more. But it's not just like a small inconvenience. It's a really significant logistical challenge and a cost challenge, too. And it's only going to get more intense as customer expectations keep climbing.
So, okay, if being close is so important, why aren't we just seeing warehouses popping up, right in the middle of every big city? What's stopping that?
Well, there are several things kind of tangled together. A big one, something Agora really highlighted, it just comes down to basic economics, right? High demand, limited supply.
Okay.
There's a huge need for these well-located logistics spots, especially in or very near the dense urban areas where people want that super fast delivery. But, I mean, the amount of suitable land in those prime locations, it's finite. It's really scarce.
Makes perfect sense. Yeah, city land is valuable for everything. Housing, offices, shops. Warehouses have to compete with all that.
Exactly right. And that limited supply, naturally, it pushes costs way up, both for buying existing buildings and for new construction. Agora pointed that out too. Building in cities often means dealing with tougher zoning rules, higher labor costs, sometimes even pushback from the community. All of that just adds to the price tag.
So it's not just finding a spot. It's the cost and all the red tape involved in actually building there. Are there other things influencing this? Other dynamics?
It's interesting, yeah. Shepherd homebuyers, they offer a slightly different angle. They suggest that, okay, e-commerce had this massive explosive growth, right? But maybe that rate of growth is starting to level off a bit, stabilizing.
Mhm.
So this could mean that while the need for fast delivery in cities is still critical, maybe the overall absolute demand for all kinds of logistics space isn't going to keep skyrocketing forever like we thought. There might be a bit of a lag, some existing capacity.
Interesting point. So maybe it's less about needing just endless amounts of warehouse space everywhere and more about needing the right kind of space in the right places, sort of a quality over quantity thing.
That's a really good way to put it, yeah. And Shepherd homebuyers also mentioned the growing impact of automation inside warehouses.
The robots.
Exactly. As warehouses get smarter, with robotics, better sorting systems, they can often handle way more goods in the same amount of physical space. That increased efficiency. Well, it could potentially reduce the need for these absolutely enormous, sprawling warehouses.
That makes sense. If the tech lets you pack more in and process it faster, maybe you don't need quite as many square feet. So maybe smaller tech-heavy facilities become more realistic in cities.
Precisely. Now, if we look at what Prologis has been researching, we see another important piece. They've noticed that the available supply, the stuff that's actually out there, is increasingly located further away from the big city
A lot of
centers.
that.
Often it's a direct result of those lower land and development costs we talked about. It's just cheaper to build further out.
Right. Cheaper rent on the outskirts, but then you slam into the time and cost problem of getting the goods into the city for that quick last mile delivery. It feels like a real catch-22.
It really is. And it just highlights the tough trade-offs companies are wrestling with. Those savings on the building or the lease might look good up front, but they can get eaten up really fast by higher transport costs, more fuel, and crucially, by failing to deliver on that 1 hour promise consistently.
This keeps bringing us back to that last mile. It really sounds like that's the make or break point in this whole speed game. Can you break down exactly what last mile logistics really covers?
Yeah, sure. As Allegra Realty defines it pretty clearly, last mile logistics is that final, absolutely critical step in getting the product delivered. It's the journey from the last holding point, maybe that's a big regional warehouse, or maybe it's a smaller city depot directly to the customer's doorstep or their business.
Okay.
And it's pretty much universally seen as the most complex and often the most expensive part of the entire supply chain.
Right, because you're dealing with like tons of individual addresses trying to dodge traffic jams, often in really dense city areas. It's way different from just shipping a big truckload to one central spot.
Totally different ballgame. You're managing a high volume of single deliveries. You need to optimize routes constantly to avoid delays. You're often dealing with really tight delivery windows customers expect. And this is exactly where the location, the strategic location of that logistics real estate, especially being close to your urban customers, becomes just absolutely vital.
So proximity matters most here.
Hugely. Allegro Realty really stresses this. Being physically near your customers drastically improves your chances of hitting those fast delivery speeds. And ultimately, that leads to happier customers, more loyalty.
Okay, so if businesses really want to win that last mile, they've got to prioritize being close. But given all the challenges we just talked about, not enough space, super high cost, how are companies actually managing this? What strategies are they using?
We're seeing some pretty clever adaptations, actually. Shepherd home buyers, for instance, they point to a really clear trend towards needing smaller but very strategically placed warehouses right inside urban
So
areas.
not the giant sheds, but something different.
Exactly. Think of them less like massive storage vaults and more like um, localized fulfillment hubs, little depots designed specifically to enable that super fast last mile dispatch.
Like little forward bases for getting stuff out quickly. That makes a lot of sense.
That's a great analogy. And recognizing how fast this market is changing, Shepherd Home Buyers also flags the growing importance of flexible lease terms.
Ah, okay.
Businesses need to be nimble, right? They need to be able to scale up or scale down, maybe even move locations if demand patterns change. Getting locked into a really long-term lease on a huge fixed space, that might not be the smartest move in this kind of environment.
Flexibility seems key. Now, what about that balancing act we mentioned earlier, the cheaper costs further out versus the speed you get being closer in? How are companies trying to square that circle?
Prologis gets right into this. It's this constant analysis of trade-offs. Sure, a warehouse way out might save you a lot on rent or land, but those savings can vanish pretty quickly with higher transport costs, more fuel burned, and the big one, not being able to meet those customer demands for speed.
So what's the alternative?
Well, one suggestion they explore is investing in or maybe partnering with these sort of shared urban logistics hubs. It's a way to get that crucial city proximity without having to bear the full cost and headache of running your own massive downtown warehouse.
So it's not necessarily about needing your own giant building in the city center, but maybe having a smaller footprint or using shared facilities, these urban hubs, just to handle that critical final leg.
Exactly. These hubs can give you that vital closeness for last mile efficiency. And they might offer more flexible, maybe more cost-effective options compared to trying to set up and run your own full-scale warehouse in a really expensive urban spot.
And it's not just about where these places are located, is it? It sounds like the way they're designed and how they operate is changing too.
Oh, absolutely. Peers' insights really highlight this. Modern warehouse design, it needs to be adaptable. It needs to be built with automation and advanced tech in mind right from the start. Because that tech can seriously boost efficiency, speed up how fast orders get processed, and ultimately help you use the space you have much better, which is super important, especially in those potentially smaller urban locations.
So we're talking more robots moving things, more sophisticated sorting gear, less reliance on just people walking around picking things.
Precisely. Automation can dramatically increase how much you can handle, your throughput, and cut down on the physical space you need just for manual tasks. And PER also brings up something else important: sustainability, ESG standards, environmental, social governance.
Right. ESG is everywhere now. How does it fit in here?
Well, it's not just about, being green. It can actually lead to real cost savings through things like energy efficiency. Plus, having strong ESG credentials makes properties way more attractive to tenants, to partners, to investors who are all paying much more attention to these factors now.
Interesting. So greener warehouses can actually be better for the bottom line too. Good connection.
And one last piece, we can't forget the huge role of technology in predicting what customers are going to want and where.
Demand forecasting.
Exactly. Using smart data analytics, predictive modeling, businesses can get a much better idea of where demand is likely to pop up, and then they can strategically place inventory in the best locations ahead of time. That minimizes the distance, minimizes the time needed for that final delivery.
Wow. Okay. So it sounds like a real combination platter. You need smart location choices, flexible ways of operating,
Yeah.
and really leaning into technology to make the whole logistics chain smoother.
That's it, exactly. It's about building a logistics network that's much more responsive, much more agile, one that can actually adapt effectively to what modern consumers are demanding, which seems to change faster and faster.
Okay, that was a lot, but really useful. So let's try to boil this down for everyone listening. What are the absolute key takeaways people should be thinking about right now?
Well, I think the fundamental thing you need to grapple with is this growing expectation for speed, especially that 1 hour benchmark. And how does your current logistics setup, your footprint, either help or hurt that?
Right.
You've really got to take a hard look at your location strategy considering these faster demands. A warehouse that seems cheap because it's far away might save money up front, sure, but if it means you can't deliver quickly and keep customers happy, well, those savings might not be real savings at all.
So it's about finding that balance point, isn't it? That sweet spot where you're being cost effective, but you're still meeting the need for speed and closeness.
Precisely. And finding that balance might mean looking at solutions you maybe haven't considered before, like those smaller urban fulfillment spots we talked about, or maybe using those shared urban logistics hubs. You don't necessarily need your own huge, costly warehouse right downtown to compete on speed anymore.
And it really sounds like technology isn't just a nice to have anymore. It's becoming almost essential, right? For managing stock, predicting demand, optimizing those tricky last mile routes.
Absolutely critical. And I'd add, don't underestimate the growing importance of building flexibility into your leases and really thinking proactively about the benefits of sustainability in your whole logistics plan.
Why those two specifically?
Well, flexibility keeps you agile in a changing market, and sustainability. It can cut costs, yes, but it also increasingly resonates with consumers and partners. It enhances your brand. Both can positively impact your bottom line and your reputation.
So it seems like the businesses that are really going to thrive in this fast delivery world are the ones that can be strategic, but also really adaptable. The ones that embrace smart location choices and the power of technology.
I think that's a very accurate way to sum it up. It demands a kind of holistic view, a forward-thinking approach to your whole logistics network. You have to be constantly evaluating, constantly adjusting to meet those ever-rising customer expectations.
This is definitely a lot to chew on, but super important stuff. So as you're thinking about all this, maybe here's a final question to consider. How are these big trends likely to reshape your specific industry? Is this relentless push for speed going to be a major shakeup? And what concrete steps, what proactive moves can you start thinking about now to position your business for success down the road in this changing logistics world. It's
Yes.
not just about keeping up anymore, is it? It feels like it's about getting ahead of what's coming next.
It really is an ongoing journey of learning and tweaking things. Understanding these underlying forces, like we discussed today, that's really the crucial first step towards building a logistics operation that's resilient and ultimately much more focused on the customer.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for taking this deep dive with us today. We really hope this discussion has given you some valuable food for thought on navigating these tricky logistics and location issues.
Yeah, our goal is always to equip you with the kind of knowledge you need to make smart decisions and hopefully thrive even when things are moving this fast.
And that wraps up our deep dive for today. Until next time, keep thinking critically and keep learning.